The Indiana Fever have 52 hours to decide whether Caitlin Clark rides into the Indianapolis 500 on a back that couldn't take Tuesday's practice or Wednesday's tip. 12:29 Sunday afternoon, 350,000 people, one pace car, and Herb Simon, who spent $78 million on a building that opens in 2027 instead of the bench Caitlin Clark needed in 2026. Wednesday afternoon at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, tip-off less than 90 minutes away, the Indiana Fever scratched Caitlin Clark, back injury. That's the line they gave the press, for a player who hadn't appeared on the team's Tuesday injury report. Number 5 tied her warm-ups and walked to center court in Clark's place. Her name is Tyasha Harris, Indianapolis native, South Carolina graduate, 5 years in the WNBA, and one knee surgery less than 12 months ago. She went 0 for 6 from the field. 29 minutes, 7 assists, 0 points. The Fever still won, 90-73 over Portland. Aliyah Boston dropped 24 points and 8 rebounds. Lexie Hull went 4 for 4 from 3 for 16 points, finished plus 24. The win came from the players Herb Simon paid the least. Because here's the part people miss. The team that won Wednesday wasn't the team Herb Simon built. It was the team Aliyah Boston and Lexie Hull held together, while the bench Herb Simon paid for went 0 for 6. $78 million. That's what Herb Simon committed last September to the Indiana Fever Sports Performance Center. 108,000 square feet, 3 stories, opens before the 2027 season. A practice facility that doesn't exist yet, for a player whose back gave out in 2026. When Simon broke ground on that facility back in September, he called it a new standard for women's sports. Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA and the WNBA, flew to Indianapolis personally for the ceremony. He spoke about Herb Simon as a contributor to every significant development in basketball over the past 4 decades. Krauskopf gave the speech. Boston and Mitchell stood for the photo op. The shovels turned dirt. Cameras flashed. Nobody asked what was being spent on the medical staff. Nobody asked what was being spent on the bench. Nobody asked what was being spent on the body of the player who'd have to keep generating revenue for 14 more months before that facility ever opened a door. The answer is not enough. The 2025 Sportico valuation put the Indiana Fever at $560 million, up 522% since Caitlin Clark arrived in Indianapolis. $500 million in franchise value, built on her back, and the back that built it gave out Wednesday afternoon. Look at the depth Herb Simon's front office signed for 2026. Sydney Colson, released last season by the Las Vegas Aces, the team that won the championship 2 years running. She played 3 minutes per game in last year's playoffs. Brought into Indianapolis at $90,000 to back up Caitlin Clark. 35 years old, locker room veteran with 2 rings, she earned mostly from the end of the Vegas bench. Tyasha Harris never averaged double digits in a WNBA career. Knee surgery in June of 2025. Signed April 12th as backcourt depth. Monique Billings replacing Natasha Howard, who walked to Minnesota for a contract Indiana wouldn't match. Damiris Dantas, Sophie Cunningham, injury limited last season. That is the bench Herb Simon paid for, to back up the most valuable player in the Women's National Basketball Association. And on Wednesday afternoon at 5 o'clock, when that player couldn't play, Tyasha Harris started. 29 minutes, 0 for 6, 0 points. That is the answer Herb Simon's checkbook gave to the question, what happens if Caitlin Clark goes down? Tuesday, May 19th, 2 things happened on the same day. Tuesday morning, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway announced Caitlin Clark would serve as Grand Marshal of the 110th Indianapolis 500. Tuesday evening, same day, Caitlin Clark didn't practice with the Indiana Fever. She wasn't on the injury report. She wasn't listed as questionable. She wasn't flagged as managed rest. She just didn't practice. 24 hours later, the Fever announced she would not play that night. Back injury, 90 minutes before tip. A back injury that wasn't on Tuesday's injury report, for a player who didn't practice on Tuesday. There are 2 explanations. Either the medical staff missed something, a back issue serious enough to scratch her Wednesday afternoon that didn't show up on Tuesday's report, or the medical staff knew Tuesday and didn't put it on the report. Neither one tells you a competent organization is running this. Both of them tell you something about Herb Simon's medical staff that the $78 million going to concrete isn't fixing. 12:29, Sunday afternoon, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The 110th running of the Indianapolis 500, 350,000 fans in the stands. The pre-race ceremony broadcast live on Fox Network starting at 10 in the morning. The national anthem by Jordan Sparks. And then Caitlin Clark stands in the pace car, most ceremonial line in American motorsport. Drivers, start your engines. Larry Bird gave that command. Reggie Miller gave that command. Indiana basketball legends standing on the front straight at the largest single-day sporting event on the planet. None of them gave it on a body that couldn't survive Wednesday afternoon. But Caitlin Clark will. 48 hours after a back injury her medical staff didn't see coming. 12 hours after a Friday night game against the Golden State Valkyries that may or may not have happened with her on the floor. Who decided this is safe? That isn't a rhetorical question. Caitlin Clark didn't volunteer to do the Indy 500 Grand Marshal honors 3 years ago when the Speedway first asked. She couldn't. The fever schedule kept her from accepting. In 2026, they accepted, on a body that broke this week. That decision didn't get made in Caitlin Clark's living room. It got made in an office inside an organization Herb Simon has owned for 35 years. Herb Simon bought the Indiana Pacers in 1983. Small-market NBA franchises were struggling to stay afloat back then. Simon kept the Pacers in Indianapolis. Indiana Fever ownership followed in 1999, that's when the franchise came into existence. 27 years he's signed the Fever's checks. 35 years he's owned basketball in this city. In 2024, the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame inducted him as a contributor. Adam Silver introduced him personally. The plaque hangs in Springfield, Massachusetts. 24 months later, the player whose arrival lifted his franchise value by $500 million sat on a bench in street clothes because nobody around her saw the back injury coming. The building that was supposed to fix all of that, the $78 million Performance Center, won't open for 14 more months. For 14 more months, Caitlin Clark's body has to survive a roster Herb Simon built without depth, without backup, without anyone in front of her who's been a starting WNBA point guard since 2022. 14 months. On a back that broke once this week. A Hall of Fame owner, a Hall of Fame plaque, a facility that opens in 2027, and no answer when she went down on May 20th. 12:29 Sunday afternoon. Herb Simon will be at the Indianapolis 500. He always is. He's an Indianapolis institution. He'll watch Caitlin Clark stand in the pace car. He'll watch her give the command. 350,000 people will cheer for the woman whose body the Indiana Fever, the team Herb Simon owns, couldn't protect on Wednesday at 5 o'clock. And then on Thursday, the Fever fly to San Francisco. They play Golden State again, this time at Chase Center. The team Natalie Nakase built in 12 months out of leftover expansion draft players. The team that made the playoffs in year one. Caitlin Clark either plays Thursday on the same back that gave out Wednesday, or she sits. Either way, Herb Simon's bench will be the answer. A bench that went 0 for 6. Here's the question every Fever fan over 55 in Indiana has to ask before they sit down to watch Sunday's race. When the woman they're cheering for climbs out of that pace car, is anyone in Herb Simon's organization actually thinking about her body? Or are they thinking about the building? Because the building opens in 2027. Caitlin Clark plays in 2026.